Welcome to Kingdom Metalworks. So today what we're going to do is we are going to stretch over the catwalk section of our panel. And so for that, before we get in the bag, I annealed it on the last video. This one here, I'm just going to deburr everything so that I don't cut into the bag. Soon as there was a little radius, rather than deburr it with a knife, I decided to deburr it with my tool. And this one I'm just going to deburr with my little deburr knife. They come in handy. So having deburred the panel now, we're going to walk over, let's go this way, to the lead shop bag, where I'm just going to dress the front of this panel down over the bag to give it nice contour. For that, I'm going to use a fairly sharp pointed mallet, nothing too major, but just enough. And I can see my lifelines of where my original section should be. So first we have to stretch on the front section. And then as I stretch on the front section, I can then just work it back. And then I can stretch back up again on my front section. So I need to progressively stretch out this section in here and work this direction where I'm stretching it a little bit less, so that this drops over this direction. And I'm doing it on the lead shop bag because it will allow it to stretch nicely. It's going to be noisy, so I can't talk much, but see, I've now taken it from a flow line and I've given it quite a bit of kick. And I've tried to keep in the same amount of shape, keeping to my boundary lines. You can just about see those where I've been striking. And I've done a half moon coming in. May have crossed the line just a hair there, but all of this is going to be shaped up and reversed the other way. And I know that this is going to need a little bit more stretching in here. And so I like to do it progressively, as you can see, stretching the material, the amount that I've stretched it, just by lead shop bag, thins it out considerably, so I'm keeping an eye on my thickness so it doesn't get too thin. And then I'm going to size it up on the other panel. So let's see where we're at looking and gauging to the other panel now. If I had a buck and I was making it on the buck, I would then gauge it to my buck. As soon as I don't have a buck, and this was a freehand panel that a student made, remembering I said that we weren't fitting very, very close at all on that front section. And now we're sitting a whole bunch closer in this section. And like I say, all I've got to do now is bring this material up and over to marry in to where I need that to be. So there you have it. We have a panel that's getting into the same shape as this one. It's just the very beginning stages. And so now I'm just going to continue dressing, probably dress over on a mandrel. I could actually put it in the English wheel with my 1.5-inch radius wheel. We'll check it out and see if that is what conforms fairly well. As you can see, 1.5 inches would probably just about do it. So that was the no strike zone, but because we've got to get it to fit the radius of the panel coming in through here at a 1.5, obviously we have to stretch it dramatically. You can't do it in the wheel, because if you wheel it, the more you wheel it, the amount of pressure that you've got on the wheel thins out the material even more. So what I've done is I've actually annealed the metal so it's a lot softer, so now it dresses over. It hasn't thinned it out too much, so now I have material to work with, and now all I have to do is dress up and shape up on all the shaping that I've done, and then I'm going to come back in and put my shape in through here. That will put more crown in through here, just so you can see where we're at and what we're talking about. That's where our profile should fit, and you can see it's right there, but it needs to be here. So that needs to drop down and that needs to come up, and then this will just drop in. Let's have a look at the back one, see how we're doing. On the back one, we're setting it up on the line, and we see that we've got to do a very similar thing. It's almost to the shape, but I have to have this set back here, which means it's touching here. So I've got to throw that down and pull this up to allow this to fit right in the right position. So annealing the metal makes it nice and soft, allows me to shape up things really well. And then I'm working this particular area to smooth, blend, and shape up to keep in configuration with my lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a mandrel just to dress it into shape a little bit better, and at the same time we'll use a slapper. I like to use slappers. They come in handy for doing this type thing. It is a bit of noise involved, but that's okay. So let's go over to the device and see where we're at. So we'll position our mandrel in. It's just a mandrel that's got a curvature to it, and as the curvature is correct to the shape, as you can see from underneath, I can now utilize that mandrel to shape up my panel and blend and smooth. So it is a noisy process, but I'll just show you how I'm doing that. If you're wondering what slappers I'm using, I've got two different types of slapper. They're just a half-round file that I've cleaned up, put a kink in the handle. As you can see, one is tapered because one is the sharp end of the file and the handle was on this end, and this one was vice versa. The sharp end of the file was there, which I made into the handle, and this one is a consistent width. So I can use either or. I'm going to start off with a slightly heavier one and just come in. And as you can see, I'm just blending and smoothing and changing the radius of the shape. Now you can see the little kick line. I've just got to dress back in just a hair further, just to get that blend and through. And so to do that, I'm going to utilize the lead shop bag as well as the mandrel, just to allow me to come in. See, when you're hitting on a lead shop bag, the wonderful thing about a lead shop bag instead of a sandbag is it maintains a curvature. So right here, I've got a little valley. It's also got throw over this way because of the shape of the bag. So therefore, I'm utilizing it. The sandbags, they kind of shift and the sand moves around. So it's a little bit more challenging trying to do what I just did. And as you can see, I've now shaped this blend line and it's more consistent. You can see that now we're more of a go and flow rather than all this shape here going into a mighty bulge in there. And all I did was blend it down in the bag and just slightly adjust it. We go over to the bench again and see where we are with our shaping and just have a look to see that we're moving in the right direction. So here we have our sweeps, and as you're working with a sweep, you just have to constantly pay attention. So every time you change the shape of the panel, what's the rest of the panel doing as you're changing the shape in this section? So first off, we're going to use the number 1. We're going to see how do we fit up. We're getting relatively closer. So as you can see, it needs to be there. So I need to pick this area up and over, and this area needs to drop over more. So I'm going to just flick it just a hair on the bag and bring that down. Just so I can see exactly where I need that shape to be. So as you can see, I've put in considerable more curve this direction now, just to help it drop over. Everything's dropping over, and the more I stretch in this area here, the more I can bring this material, lengthen it, which will curve this down and help this stretch in. But we're looking relatively good. We're going to try it again. You see, just by that little bit of motion that I did, you can see, oh wow, we're a lot closer. A whole bunch closer than where we were. So now I'm going to work on this area in here and punch some shape in just so I can get that to sit right in that area. On the rear, we haven't changed much. we're basically still looking the same. You can see where the radius is just slightly off, the angle is slightly too much, but you can see it needs the same thing, shaping up right in through here. So let's check our third one, which was our sweep for the front to rear. If you remember, I made the sweep to fit the end of the panel, and I want to see, hey, whereabouts are we with our shaping? So you can see that even though I put this shape in here, I haven't changed the shape of the panel on the front very much. So all I've got to do now is put more crown in the back here to bring this section up a hair. From about here to about here, it's fitting relatively well with the shape of our sweep, as you can see. So the fact that this edge is dropped down just a hair allows me to be able to now bead roll and tip flange this over and then shrink my flange up and adjust into whatever shape I need it to conform as it conforms to here. As you can see, the area where I was talking about is that area there, and you can see where it's got a gap between it. And so that's the area I need to put more shape in, right up in here. And at the top here, we're looking relatively good. Okay, well, if you've enjoyed the information, and just hit that like button and maybe subscribe. Bye for now.